Hey, so editing Deja here. I just wanted to pop in really quick for a disclaimer on this video. Not gonna lie, guys, the picture quality isn't great. This conversation with my friend James was recorded over Zoom. It was actually my first time recording over Zoom, and there really isn't much to see. So I don't actually recommend watching this video, I recommend listening to it. And so, play it in the background while you're doing something else or, multitasking in some way and enjoy it that way. All right, that's all. I've got to get back to editing. I hope you enjoy our conversation and I'll see you at the end of the video. Right, and something I learned recently, somebody told me, oh, I put a lot of pressure on myself, and like half the time this is really good because I can do some really good work and then I'm like really proud of myself and it's crazy. And that's where like confident Deja like comes out. But then I said, but then there's this other side where I put so much pressure on myself that I break. And the person I was talking to goes, oh, that's not pressure, that's anxiety. And I was like, what? Like, there's a difference. And like, yeah, there's a difference. And the difference is execution. Like if you're like in, I know, I had never heard that before. And that was like, I guess a thought. I'd been introduced to a thought that made a lot of sense to me. And when looking back in, my history, the moments when I am stalled out are moments when I'm like heavily anxious and I'm just replaying the anxious thoughts over and over and over and over and over again. Nothing is constructive. And I'll get so worked up on my own anxiety. Like it's literal work. I'll get so worked up on my own anxiety and spending so much like energy, physical, mental energy in the anxiety, and sometimes even like time, that there isn't anything left to do what I need to do. But because I've just expend energy on that, it almost feels like I spent a whole day working, but really I've gotten nothing done. And I think that's something that what is it? The War of Art. What is that book called again?
War of Art. Yeah. The war. Yeah, because it's like the Art of War is Sun Tzu, I believe. Yeah. The Art of War.
Um,
Yeah, the Art of War. Wait,
the
wait, wait,
War
wait. The
of
War of Art.
Art. No, it's
He's
called the
I
War.
just
No, it's okay. I was second guessing myself too. No, but that's something that the War of Art talks about in the first couple of chapters. And it's like you'll spend so much time kind of like in the anxiety and in the procrastination, like spinning your own wheel kind of thing. Like you don't get anything done, but you kind of feel like you have. And the person I was talking to, like my friend, who was telling me that there's a difference between putting pressure on myself and being like anxious and treating that as work. I was telling him about a creative project. I'm like, oh yeah, I've been working on this for 2 years. And he's like, no, you haven't. You've been thinking about it for 2 years and maybe doing a couple things here and there. But really, you've been like anxious for 2 years about an idea that you're not executing on. I was like, shit. Like, I hate how right that is.
yeah.
But I don't know if that like resonates with you at all
No,
when
it
it comes to
doesn't
your
at all.
procrastination.
0%. No, I know,
Zero
I'm
percent.
kidding.
I'm
No,
alone,
I
right? In my human experience, nobody ever
literally
feels the way I
just
feel.
you.
Shit. I guess I'm special.
Yeah,
Needs.
there
No,
you
I'm kidding.
go.
That's an
Nice to
awful
put that
joke.
spin on that. Just kidding.
One
No,
and only, everybody.
I completely get that. Even as you were saying that, that made me think of another project that I've kind of been putting aside for a minute. And that's, that just brings that up, that this happens to me more often than not as well. And it's something a lot of us face, especially with people with anxiety. We have all these big ideas, but like you had mentioned before, our anxiety kind of turns them into like a form of perfectionism, where we kind of want the things to be just right for us to like enter the space.
Yeah.
And oftentimes that kind of leads us to just not act. Kind of like what you just told me and what had just happened today to me. Um, so yeah, I think it's like it's a constant battle of just fighting through, and like hearing those inner voices and just recognizing that that's not my actual, like, those aren't my actual thoughts. These are just like, it's the voice in my head, but it's something I don't have to listen to. It's not the truth.
Absolutely. And you
It's
weren't born with it.
100%.
Like no baby is doubting their ability to crawl, you
Yeah.
know? But I think you'd messaged me earlier, and we'll move on soon. But I did want to talk about this, but you'd messaged earlier and you're like really stuck in my head, like you're overthinking, and it was kind of the whole scenario was kind of making you feel bad about yourself, which I get. I think I'll often actually spend more time more time kind of like hating myself for what I didn't do than the time I spent trying to do it, or even not trying. More time is
Mm.
spent kind of like being like, shit, I can't believe I didn't get this done. And then turning that into like evidence as to, and this may just be my own struggle, but evidence as to why I don't actually, I wouldn't have deserved the opportunity in the first place. And thus, I should not pursue future opportunities,
Mm.
which is just not true. That's completely like fixed mindset. And that's not who I am. It's just a thought that would keep me in my comfort zone, because I'm kind of like, I was telling my friend this, like I've spent probably a good 15, 16 years of my life like hating myself the majority of the time. And if I think of that
Mm.
as like a job, like that, those thoughts have like 16 years of experience. And only in the past couple of years have I been like experimenting with like, oh,
Right.
self-love and self-forgiveness. And I can let this go and just move on. And if I just put myself in an environment where I can just act, I'll feel so much better and prove to myself that, okay, all of those thoughts were lies. Um, and this isn't as bad as you thought it was. Like I've only been doing that for a couple of years, and even so off and on, it isn't my nature. So at the first sign of, I hate to say it, but adversity, I start a project and maybe I'm filming a video and then I stutter. And then it's like, shit, this is why you can't film videos. This is why like you don't, and then going on and on and on. But in reality, I just need to like start over again and make it through. And, most people don't care about an or a but. And with technology, I can even edit it out. But like I would never even have I don't get to that point because I get stuck in like the first mistake. And that for me, I'm learning differently, but that had been the trigger for going back into like thoughts of self-hatred and struggling with the belief that I'm not good enough. And of course, that doesn't come from me, which is why like that's not who I am 100% of the time, because I do have moments where I'm like my truest self, and my truest self believes in me greatly. But
Mm.
like, does that make sense? Like, it's just easier to do that because you've been doing that your whole life. I don't
I
know
get that.
if that makes
I really
sense.
like how you put that like spin on kind of the occupation and how many years of experience you have, doubting yourself and all this other stuff. Because I never put it in that exact light, and it just makes so much more sense to me that way. Like this is sort of a newer thing for me and yourself. And so it's like you have what, 16 years of experience to what, maybe one total year, 2 years, hopefully
Yeah.
more, but we're still trying. That's the whole thing. We have to be a bit kinder to ourselves, but also recognize that, hey, this is something that needs to change. Could bump those years up a little bit afterwards as well.
And we will, we're in our
Once we
early
keep practicing it.
20s.
100%.
Like, we have our whole lives on average, what, like a good 50 years. And if we just keep at the practice, kind of, I guess, maybe with that long-term perspective, like that's just what I learned growing up. Like my therapist would say, that's just your conditioning. That's not you. It's just your conditioning. And you can choose to like participate in that or not. Um, he used to use the example of like a toxic friend. You might have a
Mhm.
friend who's great to be around 90% of the time, but 10% of the time they're flat earther, and they'll just go off on like random conspiracy theories, and to tune that friend out. And it's not
Mhm.
horrible enough that you're going to end your friendship. It's just annoying and nonsense, and you just don't pay attention. And toxic thoughts and toxic conditioning is the same thing. It's
Oh,
just,
for sure. It gets easier and easier as you go along. At
yeah,
first you start to realize, those thought patterns after the fact. And then maybe on your third time, you kind of catch yourself a bit earlier, where it's still afterwards, but it's immediately afterwards. And then with more and more practice, you'll be able to actually like recognize those patterns and just do the decision because you've done it so many times. And I wanted to also say that, there's a difference between recognizing something and actually doing something about it. And that's where I was kind of stuck at, where I recognized it for so long, as I'm sure a lot of us have. Um, but I think like the hard work comes from actually just practicing it. I know it's uncomfortable. I hate it. I hate it so much. But I know that this is something that I need to do. I hate the feeling. I don't hate it. I hate the feeling. I'm gonna retract that statement a little bit. Um, but it's like once I finally get past that hurdle, I like start to realize I'm like, this is a great feeling. I love that I did this for myself. And so, then when the next time comes around and I'm faced with a situation, I recognize it a little earlier, and sooner than later, I'll realize it the moment I think of it, and I can stop myself in the moment, and that's where I want to be at.
You'll get there.
Likewise.
In the meantime, though, there are things that I believe we can do to manage these aspects of ourselves, right?
Mm,
Like resources and tools that will make the process, I don't want to say easier, but kind of reduce the resistance that we're feeling, or reduce the opportunity for resistance. It's like tiny example, but I know that when I'm working with a friend in public, surrounded by other people who are also working, or are they doing something else, and we're like the oddballs who are working. It was so weird.
mm.
I was in a bar the other day, and my friend and I, she was like studying for her finals, and I was trying to edit a video, and I'm super new to video editing, so it's taking me a bit. And we were there for hours, and the bar just kept getting packed. And I don't know, people were just drunk on a Tuesday night celebrating their exams or something. And people were just coming up to us like, oh my gosh, I don't know how you guys do it. I'm so proud of you. Like, keep going. And they'd come back like an hour later and they'd be like, you're still at it? Y'all are crazy, but I love it. Keep going.
I love
And it
that.
it felt
Gotta
so
love drunk
good.
people.
I
Yeah.
love drunk people, and especially when you're not drunk. But what was really great about that experience, not just our environment, but the fact that like I so wasn't alone. I was with my friend, one who was also working on something in her own right, but then I was surrounded by other people. And so in moments when, maybe like I messed up on something and like self-doubt kind of starts to creep in, it really doesn't have much of a chance to thrive in that environment because it's just not conducive. Like, what am I going to do? Sit there and like publicly beat myself up? Like, no. Or just,
Mm.
stop and then scroll on TikTok for 2 hours, like in public? Like, never. It'd be far too embarrassing. So it's just, I don't know, like self doubt just couldn't thrive. And I ended up having one of the most productive nights that I've had in a long while. Like, I got like 3 days worth of work done in like
Wow.
7 hours. But,
I
and so
might
did my
have to
friend.
start.
It was
Yeah,
crazy.
that's awesome. I might have to do some work at a bar next time. I've never tried that one.
It was a phenomenal experience. We started out at a cafe, and
Mm.
the energy just was not right. It was so anxious, just like all this anxious energy. And we went to the bar. We did not know that the bar was going to fill up. It was this little Irish pub, super funny. But it did. And everybody was having fun. And so we were just around
Mm.
this fun energy. And we were talking about the experience after. We're like, it encouraged us to treat our work with fun. Because what are we going to do? Be the two people in the room not having fun when there's like 100 people just enjoying their lives, and we're choosing to do this. We're choosing to work right now. So we were living, and it's just self-doubt couldn't thrive. And I see that as like a resource, like I can choose to surround myself with either people who are also working on something, or environments where it just wouldn't make sense for me to indulge in what are automatic thoughts for me, which is self-doubt. Self-doubt is an automatic thought. I can choose to do that. And while I may still need like a few years to get to the point where my automatic thoughts aren't thoughts of self-doubt. That's kind of like managing from my downside, if that makes any
Mm.
sense. Which is an idea or like a concept that I've been exploring a lot lately and I really love.
Dude, that's so awesome. Thank you so much for sharing.
You're
I'm
welcome.
definitely gonna have to try that next time. In the past, what I used to do when in college, I would like go to all these different boba shops or coffee shops, to do work, or to edit, depending on what I needed to get done. Um, and my kind of solution to getting rid of that anxiety would be to actually go to like different places, because for me it was a little different for me. Like I would get self-conscious a little bit, like staying in a familiar space. Sometimes I would also get maybe too relaxed, depending on, it was different every single time. And I realized that kind of just going to a different place every single time adds some sense of like, I don't know, just made it feel like a new experience every single time. And it made me focus a lot more. Ever since, the pandemic, I've kind of just been editing at home, and I've kind of had to force myself to like just fight through it. And it's been working for a little bit, but I kind of want to reintroduce that concept back again and see where that takes me. But yeah, so thank you for sharing. I appreciate it. I'm gonna have to try that out.
One of the coolest, unexpected, I guess, like consequences of working in that bar was the ability to eavesdrop on the
A
most
conversation.
interesting conversations
Oh man.
whenever I got bored or like needed a break or started to feel like a little self-doubty. I would just, tune in. There were so many conversations happening around us. Oh
Mhm.
my goodness. Like it was so funny. It was funny and it was effective. Because I'm not going to
Mhm.
spend an hour listening to somebody's conversation, right? I mean, I'm going to
Yeah.
do it enough to like be intrigued and kind of like have a laugh, and then I'm going to get back to work. And it's just one of those things where it's like, yeah, whether it's music or for me, I'm an extrovert, so I get my energy from other people, the people around me. I guess like being self-conscious just didn't have a home there. It just, you know, like subconscious mind was very entertained by everything happening around me, which made for a really productive session.
It's kind of like the Pomodoro technique almost. Actually, it is pretty much where it's like,
Yeah.
we can't work long hours like and output 100% the entire time. We
But we
gotta like,
expect ourselves to. That's the
yeah.
thing. We maintain that expectation while we're working. So I don't know about you, but I do that. And then I'll get upset when I'm not a robot. Like when I can't get the results that I think a robot would get, like somebody who's like pure productivity, I'll get upset. But like I can't do that because that's not how humans work. Like humans work best with something like the Pomodoro technique.
100%. Yeah.
I don't know if that
And
happens to
I
you,
get
but
you. No, I get you also on listening to music. For me, I actually switch that up every now and then. Back then, it used to be solely like lo-fi music. Then sometimes I add stuff to just kind of like hype me up a little bit. So I focus like a bit on the music more, and everything else kind of becomes like secondary task when I'm doing like very menial background, whatever, like just the busy work essentially. Work that I could just do on the side. It's easy to do, but it's very what's the word for it? It's just menial tasks, I guess. I think that's no, that's not it. It's sorry,
sorry.
I brain fart. I think it's more so like tasks that don't require a lot of brain power, but you have to do it. So it's kind of
Mhm.
just like, oh, well, why not make it fun? I can just jam out to this while I just like fill this entire sheet out, whatever. Right.
Absolutely.
Helps pass the time. But yeah. Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm ready to get into it now if you are.
Yeah, of course.
Heck
Love
yes.
a
Let's do it.
glad we could kind of laugh and switch up the energy before we
No, I
did some
appreciate that. That
serious
was
stuff.
very much needed. I don't know if you're planning on using this for other stuff, but it really felt like a really good episode for a podcast.
Oh, did it really?
Yeah, no, 100%. I
Yay.
mean, I don't know if you have any plans on using this, but
I mean, only with your permission, but
this is me saying yes. Yeah, you could totally do that if you choose to do so.
and that's the video, you guys. Thank you so much for joining James and I on this conversation. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, please give this video a like and consider subscribing to my channel. Also, if you'd like to see more kind of like podcasty style conversations like this, please leave that feedback in the comments below. I love being able to incorporate what you guys think and feel into my video production process. I just want to say really quick before I go, I am so grateful to have friends like James in my life who I can have an open and honest, vulnerable conversation with about things that can be a little bit uncomfortable at times. But honestly, like pure mentorship, that is the way that I learn, that is the way I grow. I think it is so valuable, and so I encourage you to, talk to your friends about some of the uncomfortable stuff. Practice sharing with them, see how they're getting through it, because I promise you, if you have felt it before, like if you felt fear, if you felt anxiety, if you've been overthinking, so have your friends. Especially the friends that you look up to, the friends who are kicking ass out there in the world right now. They're experiencing the same kind of thoughts that you are as well. And so I think if we share and we're kind of like open with each other, like we can build each other up and we'll accomplish more things together than we will apart. Okay, that's it. That's my little positivity thing for the video. Check out my other videos and let me know what you want to see next in the comments below. Ciao!